Once a formidable and wealthy figure, Thomas Westwood was a self-made billionaire who built his empire through sheer determination, sharp intellect, and relentless drive. He commanded respect in boardrooms across continents. Despite his successes, what truly mattered to Thomas was his only son, Damon. Damon was the center of Thomas's world. From the day he was born, his father invested every dream and hope into his future, providing him with the finest education, elite mentors, and abundant opportunities. Yet as the years passed, Damon grew distant. The love and values instilled in him were replaced by an air of entitlement and arrogance. One evening, Thomas, troubled by a growing sense of failure, sat alone in his study, contemplating the path his son had taken. He wondered if his wealth had poisoned Damon's spirit. Determined to uncover the truth, he devised a daring plan. He would vanish from his life of luxury, assuming the identity of an ordinary man, to test Damon's heart and character. Thomas left his mansion in the city of Portfield, walking away from his opulent estate with nothing but a small duffel bag. He discarded his tailored suits and polished shoes for simple clothes and worn sneakers, blending into the streets like countless others seeking shelter and survival. Portfield's bustling avenues, where he had once been a lion among businessmen, now seemed cold and indifferent. For weeks, Thomas lived humbly, sleeping in shelters and enduring the hardships of homelessness. He saw a different world, one filled with struggle, but also with kindness he had seldom noticed before. Hidden in plain sight, he watched Damon from afar. Damon's life continued unabated. Luxurious dinners at an upscale restaurant called Ivory Ridge, drives in sleek cars, and meetings with influential people. To Thomas's dismay, his son did not seem to miss him. One day, determined to face Damon directly, Thomas approached Ivory Ridge, its gleaming windows and lavish decor, a sharp contrast to his current appearance. As he stepped inside, he felt the weight of judgmental gazes from the staff. The hostess, with a sharp glance, declared, "I'm sorry, sir, but we're fully booked." "Please," Thomas pleaded. "It's been a long day." "We don't have space," she repeated, her tone final. Thomas turned to leave but caught sight of Damon through a glass partition, laughing with colleagues. Pain surged through him as he crossed the room, stopping just short of his son's table. Gathering his courage, he whispered, "Damon." Damon looked up, confusion flashing in his eyes before settling into disdain. "Do I know you?" he asked coldly. Thomas's heart sank. "It's me, your father." Damon's gaze swept over him, dismissing his ragged clothes and weathered face. "You must be mistaken," he replied. "I don't have time for this. Leave." Crushed, Thomas walked out into the night, his heart heavier than ever. Soon after, Thomas took decisive action. He summoned his trusted lawyer, Marcus Lane, and instructed him to restructure Damon's inheritance. "Leave him enough to survive but not thrive," he ordered. "Are you certain?" Marcus asked, his brow furrowing. "Yes," Thomas replied firmly. "It's the only way he will learn." Marcus sighed but nodded, knowing the depth of his client's conviction. Meanwhile, Thomas enlisted Olivia Grant, a sharp-witted private investigator, to uncover the full scope of Damon's actions. The findings confirmed his worst fears. Damon had manipulated clients, betrayed partners, and engaged in unethical business practices. Heartbroken but resolute, Thomas prepared for one final conversation with his son. He invited Damon to the mansion, the place where so many of their memories had been made, now a stark reminder of broken dreams. When Damon arrived, his usual swagger was gone. The air between father and son crackled with tension as they faced each other across the dining table. "You failed me," Thomas began, his voice heavy with sorrow. Damon bristled. "I built my success. I've earned everything I have." Thomas shook his head. You were given everything, and you squandered it." He slid a thick folder across the polished wood. Damon opened it, his hands trembling as he scanned the legal documents. "You can't do this," Damon whispered, panic rising in his voice. "It's already done," Thomas said quietly, his heart breaking. "This is the last gift I'll ever give you, the chance to build something real on your own." Fury and fear warred on Damon's face as he stormed out, slamming the grand doors behind him. In the months that followed, Damon's world unraveled. Stripped of wealth and influence, he faced failure after failure. Former friends turned their backs on him, and business ventures collapsed. He tasted humility for the first time, each setback a bitter reminder of choices made in arrogance. But the darkness was not without its lessons. In solitude, Damon began to reflect. He worked menial jobs, feeling the weight of every dollar earned. For the first time, he understood the value of integrity, hard work, and the respect of others. One stormy evening, drenched and weary, he found himself outside the mansion gates once more. Memories flooded him, laughter in the grand halls, lessons by the fire, his father's unwavering guidance. The house loomed before him, a symbol of everything he had lost. "Father," he whispered, though no one could hear. He turned away, the rain masking his tears. With renewed determination, Damon resolved to forge a new path. The road ahead would be long and unforgiving, but it was one he would walk with purpose. And somewhere in the shadows, Thomas watched, hope kindling in his heart. Portfield's night was alive with the hum of life, a symphony of sirens, distant laughter, and the rhythm of footsteps on wet pavement. Damon walked aimlessly, the weight of his transformation settling like a heavy cloak upon his shoulders. The luxury that once defined his existence had vanished, replaced by the rawness of struggle. He took shelter beneath a streetlight, its flickering glow a fragile refuge against the darkness. The faces of those he had wronged haunted his thoughts. Business partners betrayed for profit, friends discarded for ambition. For every wrong step, there was a lesson carved into his soul. A young man approached, wearing threadbare clothes and carrying a small guitar case. He looked up, eyes sharp with resilience. "Spare a few coins, sir?" he asked. Damon reached into his pocket, the gesture reflexive, though the bills he pulled free were few. "Here," he said quietly. "Thanks," the stranger replied, strumming a chord as he moved on. The melody lingered in the air, a soft, hopeful tune that stirred something deep within Damon. He followed the sound, his steps guided by curiosity and a yearning for redemption. The narrow alley led him to a makeshift gathering, musicians, poets, and dreamers sharing their stories. Damon lingered at the edge, absorbing the raw, unfiltered expressions of human experience. The more Damon listened, the clearer his purpose became. He realized his greatest wealth was never measured in possessions or status, but in connections and the honesty of his soul. When a gray-haired poet shared a tale of losing everything but finding peace in simplicity, Damon felt his heart crack open. A young musician noticed his presence. "You look like a man searching for something," she said, her voice gentle but perceptive. "I am," Damon confessed. "I lost my way, but I want to find it again." "Then stay," she offered. "Here, everyone finds a place." In the flickering light of lanterns, Damon shared his story for the first time. The rise, the fall, and the lessons learned. The crowd listened, not with judgment, but with understanding. It was here, among strangers and their honest tales, that he began to rebuild his spirit. Weeks turned into months. Damon became a part of this vibrant, hidden community. He found joy in simple things, playing music with newfound friends, sharing meals prepared with love, and earning trust through small acts of kindness. The man who had once been lost in greed now thrived in humility. One day, as he helped a young street vendor set up her cart, Damon felt a familiar presence nearby. He turned and saw Thomas standing at a distance, pride shining in his eyes. Damon's heart surged with emotion. "Father," he whispered, stepping forward. Thomas opened his arms, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, they embraced, not as a man and a boy, but as equals who had both traveled long, hard roads. "You found what I hoped you would," Thomas said softly. "And I finally understand what you tried to teach me," Damon replied. They walked side by side through Portfield, the streets no longer a maze of regrets, but paths of new beginnings. Together they spoke of dreams reborn, of futures built on truth, and of a bond stronger than wealth or power, a bond forged by love, respect, and redemption.